Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Welcome to Monday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. Lessons to be learnt from the Suicide Squad. Now, whatever you think about the box office, whether you deem it to be low or solid, I deem it to be solid. That's how I'm looking at it. Already the people over at HBO Max confirming that this day and date release is the second most successful since they started doing day and date. So they seem to be very happy with the result, both in movie theatres and HBO Max, of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Who knows what the truth is? People want to stamp, that people want to know, is it a flop? Is it successful? Who knows? Warner Brothers think it's a success. You know, a lot of people who are fighting to restore the Snyderverse think this is an opportunity. This is a flop. This is amazing. They're going to restore the Snyderverse. It doesn't work without Snyder. We've done it. Yeah. I don't think that's the case, although I want to restore the Snyderverse as well. But we have to learn lessons here, because Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, and now James Gunn's The Suicide Squad have all had great reviews from top critics and had great results on Rotten Tomatoes. But it doesn't seem to have made a difference. Why? Because this is all the internet. Who's on the internet? Access Media, Rotten Tomatoes, stands. You and me are stands. You don't have to convince a stan to go and watch a movie. And that's who's on the internet. Stans talk about movies more than watching movies. And that's fine. You can do whatever you want. But here's the problem. And here's the issue with the marketing. Not just from Warner Brothers, but from all studios. They focus on the internet. That's where the trailers are. That's where the posters are posted. That's where everything is. There has to be a lesson learnt here, because the broader audience, the normies, are not on the internet. No, they're in the physical world. We need better marketing in the physical world. So when I look at this, I think we need more billboards, we need more TV spots, and we need the trailers in the movie theatres. This is where the normies are. The normies are not sitting on the internet all day talking about films. We are, because we're the stans. That's what a stan means, right? We're movie obsessives. We talk about them all day. We do. Maybe a bit too much, but we're obsessed, right? And as I say, you don't have to convince us stans to go and watch a movie, but studios are focusing on the internet. Now, in times like today, with a pandemic where you need to convince more people to be brave enough to go out to the movie theatre, you need to focus on the physical world. The internet isn't the place to focus marketing. Let's focus on, you know, appealing to Access Media on the internet. Less marketing on our stands, because you don't have to convince us to go and watch the movies, and more focus on the normie. So that's cool, you can do that. In the physical world, do more broader marketing for the broader normie, and that's going to work. But ultimately, it's about the films themselves. If you're making one movie and it's not part of a franchise, it's fine. But because of the MCU and the success of the MCU, people expect their superhero movies not to be self-contained. It's not what the normie and the broader audience want. They don't want one-off, self-contained movies. We go back again to Wonder Woman 84, Birds of Prey, and James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, all self-contained, one-off movies. I mean, it's interesting actually, because James Gunn's The Suicide Squad pretty much is going to continue in the Peacemaker show, and that's great. He's even spoken about echoing the broader DCEU universe, which is interesting, and the threat is going to be very science fiction based. So I'm excited for Peacemaker, but that's not the thing here. So, for example, if you're going to say that Bloodsport shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet, then you've got to expand on that, because Superman's a huge character. You can't just name drop him. You know, focus on Bloodsport's reasons for doing this. Someone paid him, right? Maybe, you know, evaluate that, look at that a little bit. Make him think about what he did. Make him think about what he nearly took away from the world because he just took the money, because of what he does. We don't even need to see Henry Cavill, but we could have seen a flashback of him having a very strong, gun scope, looking through it in the sky, shooting Superman and just seeing the red and blue falling down. Something interesting like that. But they did nothing. It's cheap and tatty, and it's not enough. I love James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, but we're talking about something deeper here. We've already discussed the marketing and how it needs to be focused in the real physical world. But since Justice League, they decided, oh no, interconnected universes don't work for us, even though the MCU weren't actually being very successful until the first Avengers. It's no coincidence that since the first Avengers, people will watch any MCU movie just in case they get a cameo, an Easter egg. It's what people want. So now people are just going to support the MCU because it's MCU. Look at the opening week. The opening weekend domestic box office for Black Widow. And if there wasn't a day and date premiere access, more people would have kept on going to see that movie. Now obviously, without HBO Max having the Suicide Squad on their platform, more people would have went to movie theatres. There's no question about that. But would that have been enough to make this more of a hit? I don't know. I've already said I don't think the Suicide Squad IP is a kind of IP that drags everyone to the cinema. I don't necessarily think a director being popular like James Gunn is going to drag people to the cinema. They have to be interested in it. And the way you interest them is the way the MCU interests people. That's why people are spending hours, sitting there talking about What If. What If is got connections to the live action universe. It's exciting for people. This is what Feige does. But this mistake of Wonder Woman 84, Birds of Prey, and James Gunn's The Suicide Squad being self-contained have been the problem. There is no interconnectivity. Yes, The Suicide Squad mentioned Star Labs, and that's great with Polka Dot Man. But it's not enough. People want to enjoy these franchises by interconnectivity. Now, we go to Suicide Squad 2016. The internet maligned this movie. But the truth is, the internet isn't where the movie watching is done. The people talking on the internet about a good or bad movie are not the people that you need to convince to see these movies. I've said this about Suicide Squad 2016, a movie I really enjoyed. It made nearly 800 million. How do you think that was possible? Because people went back to see it. What sold Suicide Squad 2016 was the relationship between Joker and Harley, which they cut to pieces anyway, but people were interested in that. But mostly, people went to see that movie because the Joker was going to go in it. So two reasons. Harley and Joker. Harley didn't sell that movie on her own. That's why she can't sell any other movie. That's kind of what everyone thought. Oh, Harley Quinn can sell all the movies. Suicide Squad 2016 is successful because of Harley. Oh, Birds of Prey is going to make a mint because of Harley. That's what the studio thought. They were wrong. So they put her in Suicide Squad again. She didn't sell the movie. It's as simple as that. Because if Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is that successful and is a Pied Piper that drags the normies to the movie theatre, this film would have made 100 million or whatever, right? Or whatever. Because I don't actually believe the pandemic stops people from going to movie theatres. I don't. I think having it on streaming stops people going to movie theatres. I think that's part of the problem. But the DCEU certainly needs to start again. And that's exactly what they're going to do. You see, as I've already said, it seems that critics, top critics, giving these movies full marks doesn't make any difference in the wider scheme of things. Because the normies, as I keep on saying, are not on the internet. They're in the real physical world. They don't care about Rotten Tomatoes. You know who goes? You know who goes on Rotten Tomatoes? You, the stands. Not even I go. I'm a stan and I don't go on Rotten Tomatoes. Who posts audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes? The Stand. Not ordinary people. Ordinary people haven't got time to do shit like that. They just want to go and enjoy their movies, and they want to see Easter eggs. They want to see characters cameoing. This is what people want. And this is partly the mistake of Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, and James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. As I say, from Justice League, they decided interconnectivity doesn't work. But standaloneism doesn't work either. Now, the Joker works because it's part of another universe. It's not part of the DCEU. People were quite happy to see a self-contained film there because they said it's a one-off. We don't need to see anything. This is great. We even see a young Bruce Wayne in this film. That's interconnectivity already. That's how you start a fucking universe. Maybe that's how Man of Steel should have started as well. Another conversation for another time. So I think it's pretty obvious that the broader audience and the normie wants to see connectivity, Easter eggs, and cameos. So what's the DC movie everyone's buzzing about right now? It's the Flash movie. Why? Because we know we can sit there fantasizing about all these characters that are going to cameo. Maybe Stephen Amell's Oliver Queen, Grant Gusting's The Flash. Who knows what other Arrowverse characters? Brandon Routh's Superman, maybe Nicolas Cage's Superman, who we've never seen on the screen before. Michael Keaton's Batman is definitely there, interacting with our Flash, Ezra Miller. This is what excites audiences, everyone. There wasn't enough to excite people to go and watch the Suicide Squad in their droves. As I say, if you're going to say someone shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet, do a flashback of this person finding the kryptonite, constructing it as a bullet. Maybe finding something that Batman was using in BVS. Connect it up. Maybe talk to Bruce Wayne, even though he's a criminal on Nick Bruce Wayne's blueprints or something, break into Wayne Manor. Do something interesting that says that the DCEU Earth 1 is one Earth, one universe. And you know, Bloodsport can cross over to Gotham and find a way to find a kryptonite bullet. Because a kryptonite bullet just doesn't come out of nowhere. You know, leave us some breadcrumbs to work out who ordered the hit on Superman. Make this a thing. I assumed this is what they were going to do, but they didn't do that. So these things are disappointing to the normie. Now, when I was a kid, we didn't need interconnectivity. We watched the film, we enjoyed it. Ghostbusters is awesome. Back to the Future is awesome. There was nothing to connect it to, right? And that's fine. But we live in a different environment now. The Suicide Squad box office doesn't point towards people getting fed up of superheroes or franchises. It's people getting fed up of a disjointed franchise. Excuse me. And that's what it is. Because in Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad, they're all interconnected and they all spin off from each other. And it works. Wonder Woman kind of has some connectivity with the emails between Bruce and Diana, but that's when they started to become scared and kind of distance themselves from the Snyderverse even then. And then we had Justice League, which they did distance themselves, but it was still a continuation from BVS. That's when the problems started, because they didn't know what they were doing anymore. That's when the problems started. The real problems weren't with Snyder's work. Snyder had an idea. Snyder had a vision. And in fact, just like Feige, he knew people want to see cameos and Easter eggs. And he was doing that. Jesus Christ, we see Bruce Wayne's perspective of the Battle of Metropolis. It's fucking awesome, right? In Suicide Squad, Amanda Waller actually sets up the Suicide Squad because of Superman's death in the previous film. That beautiful line she says, Superman, I forgot what it was, what was it again? Superman changed the world when he flew across the sky. He changed it again when he didn't. This is beautiful connectivity, everyone. This is why I like Suicide Squad 2016, because of the connectivity, and it's actually a damn good movie. The internet doesn't think so, but it doesn't matter what the internet thinks. It's not the internet that sells the movie. It's not movie Twitter that makes $1 billion in the global box office. It's the normies. It's the broader audience, and this is what we have to learn. This is the lessons we have to learn from Suicide Squad. And Warner Brothers and DC at the moment are not learning those lessons. But from the way Ann Sarnoff is talking, they understand, and this is why they're doing this multiverse strategy, so they can connect things together, so they can have cameos and Easter eggs. So an HBO Max superhero can come onto the movies, and a movie superhero can come onto HBO Max. That's what they're doing. This is why they had Grant Gustin and Ezra Miller cross over in Crisis on Infinite Earths. But, as I've said to you, Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84 and James Gunn's The Suicide Squad are just placeholders. They're just wasting our time until we get to this new way of doing things, until they reboot the universe. So, The Batman is nothing to do with the DCEU. It's a self-contained movie, but that's okay because it's on a different Earth. Do you understand? That's better, because then you don't expect anything. But who knows what will happen in The Batman and what cameos and references to other DC characters you'll get. And you know, Matt Reeves is a comic book man. I can't believe that's our next movie. Really excited. I'm still excited because I know we're rebooting this universe. Rebooting this universe is the way to go. But let's get to the Zack Snyder conversation. Let's ask the question, was he doing the right things? Well, it's obvious that the broader normie doesn't want to see superheroes in the real world. It's obvious that the broader normie wasn't actually relating to what Zack Snyder was doing. But at least Snyder had an idea of what he was doing. At least it was a connective universe, right? And the first 3 movies were so connective. It's when they started distancing from his plan, which was the first Wonder Woman, even though he was heavily involved in that movie, they just didn't connect it as deeply as the first 3 movies. I think that's a mistake, but the first Wonder Woman is one of my favourite CBMs of all time. I've already said that to you. It's such a good film with a great balance to it. But because Marvel did it and they tapped into something, this is what people do. This is what people want. When you open up a comic, you get some Elseworld stories, but if you're in that same world, in that Earth, it's interconnected, right? And of course, it's easier to cross over characters in a comic because you don't need to pay actors. It's easier, and I get that. But this is what people want to see. I don't think people necessarily want to see comic book accuracy. People want to see an interconnective universe. This is why Arrowverse has been somewhat successful with the crossovers. People like that. People like the fact that we started with Arrow, then Barry Allen crossed over into Arrow, then we got the Flash show. And then we got Legends of Tomorrow, and it was Oliver Queen who, you know, set them on that mission. And then we get Supergirl, and then we have the Flash and Supergirl crossing over. It works. This is what the audience want. So if you're asking the question, why? Why only 26 million on an opening weekend? This is part of the reason. Because the broader audience are seeing the DCEU go from, and it's all about the next movie. That's it. Nobody cares about anything else but the next movie. So, we know the Joker sells. We know Batman sells tickets. We know that. First of all, it's okay to have Z-list characters. But here's the thing. Did you really think people were going to come out to the cinema to see Polka Dot Man? No. Did you really think people were going to come out to see Bloodsport? No. But people wanted to come out to see Will Smith because he's Will Smith. Now, I believe Will Smith didn't do this movie, and I think the role was actually written for Will Smith and Deadshot, and they just kind of changed it over with this character because Will Smith said scheduling, but actually it's because he was supporting David Ayer. He wasn't happy how David Ayer was treated, and that's Will's prerogative, and I respect him for that a great deal. I hope we see his Deadshot again because he's great. But when you look at the characters in the Suicide Squad, it doesn't matter how well they were played or written, how good the movie is. It's all about what the audience... The audience are not stupid. They know what they're going to get. People knew what they were going to get in this film. It was great, but you can't expect people to turn up for it. It's like Shazam. People say, Shazam's rubbish, it didn't make much money. It made a profit, but no, it didn't make much money because it's Shazam. That's right. Shazam's quite a popular character, but he's not popular enough to carry a movie that makes $1 billion. And then you say to me, well, Mick, what happened with Aquaman? Why did normies go into Aquaman? You see, Aquaman's a bit of a weird kind of thing, isn't it? Because people were still scratching their heads. Why the fuck did that movie make $1 billion? Well, actually, it's kind of an easy thing to talk about. Right, Momoa is from Game of Thrones. So who went to see it? Game of Thrones characters, right? Sorry, Game of Thrones fans, right? So Momoa is a popular figure already. James Wan is a very popular director, but actually people like the Aquaman character, and people have wanted to see Aquaman on the big screen for years. James Wan basically made a movie that interested people. They saw the trailers and they said, fucking hell, Atlantis is stunning. This looks like a better film. He was saying shit like, I'm not releasing the trailer to It's Perfect. I don't want us to go down the same road as the other movies. Wan was saying the right things, like Todd Phillips was when he was promoting Joker. But he wasn't bending the knee or kissing the arses of Access Media. I mean, James Gunn really was going on the internet, talking to Access Media, talking to us, the fans. But it's, as I said earlier on, it's not us, the stands. There's no fans on the internet. It's stands. You need to appeal to the real physical world, because that's where your audience is, that's going to make your films money. And until studios understand this, we're going to go through the same problems. Now, why doesn't the MCU have this kind of a problem? Now, I know the second week of Black Widow dropped off badly, and we know why. But its opening week was fantastic, and it's still going to make, what, 400 million or something, whatever. It's still good for a pandemic, because we're not in normal circumstances, and whatever we say as biased DC fans, it was never going to make $1 billion, even if it was the best film in the world. It would be interesting to see how Joker would do as an R-rated movie in a pandemic environment. I still think it will do pretty well. Probably not $1 billion, but pretty well. I believe an audience will come out to watch a movie in a movie theatre, and it doesn't matter if there's a fucking meteor shower. People want to see movies. But people didn't come out to see this movie, especially in America. Now, globally, in the EU, it's done pretty well. Slightly better in America. This proves that the HBO Max factor had something to do with it. But moving forward, we have to focus on a strategy that is interconnected with the DCEU. You see, the Suicide Squad wasn't going to be a win or bust scenario for the DCEU anyway. As I say, just a placeholder. Just like the other two movies before it. But the Batman, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, again, isn't a vital movie. Although it is, because I'm just thinking it's coming early in 2022, but it's actually coming after Flashpoint. It's the final movie of the year. So this is interesting. So I think the box office for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom depends on if the normie and the broader audience enjoy the Flash movie. So if people are really hyped after seeing that movie and there's a feel-good factor, and we've brought in Sasha Calle's Supergirl and Michael Keaton's Batman, and we've seen all these cameos, people are going to flock. You see, what WB are attempting to do with the Flash movie is what Feige attempted to do with the first Avengers. The first Avengers garnered a feel-good factor. It was the first kind of movie that put all superheroes in the same movie, and it worked. And ever since, Marvel have been living off that movie and making money after money. That's what you want to be as a studio. People just go to watch your movies because it's got that logo on it, because it's a Marvel movie. That's what Marvel are still doing today. It's a successful franchise, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And that's what we need at DC and WB. And this is what the Flash movie can do. So I expect the Batman to be awesome and do well. I expect Black Adam to do solid box office, not great box office. It'll be interesting what that does. And then you've got the Flash movie. The Flash movie is the movie that has to make a lot of money, that reshapes this universe. And moving forward, we have people going to see this movie and enjoying themselves. People go to see MCU movies and they enjoy themselves. I hear them on the internet all the time. I meet people down the pub. Wow, that MCU movie was great. I had such a good time. That may annoy us as DC fans, But that's what we want. So if people come out of the Flash movie saying they loved it and they can't wait to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, we have won. And what Ann Sarnoff and Walter Hamada are doing works. If that's not the case, the DCEU is dead. The DCEU is not dead right now. The old DCEU is dead. The old DCEU has been dead for quite some time. Snyder, you know, there's conversations about bringing Snyder back, blah, 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 blah. And who knows, within a multiverse over on HBO Max, I'm not against that. But what we need to do now is focus on The Flash. That's the movie. That's the movie. I'm excited for the Batman and Black Adam, but the movie that the future of the DCEU hinges on is Flashpoint. If that movie works, we have a rebooted universe with different characters, with interconnectivity, and we're on to a winner. If that movie doesn't work, it's over. So we've got to have faith that the people setting up the Flash movie and that are rebooting this universe know exactly what they're doing, because it all hinges on that movie. It doesn't matter how the Suicide Squad did or didn't do. I say it's a solid return, and I mean, at this point, what are we looking at? 250 million global box office? I doubt it's going to do any more than that, maybe not even that. Who knows? Who knows? We'll have to keep an eye on the box office. But the Suicide Squad is irrelevant. Black Adam is an exciting movie and I can't wait for it, but it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter how it does. Just go out, watch it, support it, enjoy it. That's great. But the movie that must work, that must bring home the bacon, that must bring the normie, the people who go and see all movies, it's the Flash movie. It has to be that movie. Everything hinges on the Flash. And this is why they're doing this, because they know self-contained movies don't bring home the bacon. They don't. Those days have gone. We've got to forget about it. Even I moan about the good old days when I could go to HMV and find a standalone movie with whoever, right? With classic movies, gangsters, all of that. We're not there now. This is the era of the franchise. And next year, the box office will fix itself. It may not fix itself by the Batman. Who knows? It may not fix itself by Black Adam. But by, is it November? I think it's November that The Flash is coming out. By November, the box office will be fine. COVID will still be there, but it'll be a livable situation. And the box office will fix itself. So I think that's why The Flash has been put there purposely, because they know that's the movie. This is the movie with interconnectivity, cameos, everything. This is your real Justice League movie, and in this kind of type of Justice League movie, we're rebooting the franchise. We're starting again, because we can't remain in this DCEU with this negativity. We got one person saying one thing. We got Snyder fans who are still angry. I understand why you're angry. I'm with you. I fought for the Snyder Cut. I love the man's movies. I think in a multiverse he should have a place over on HBO Max. I agree with you. But the thing that I'm concentrating right now is Flashpoint. I can't wait to the Batman. I can't wait to Black Adam. I will go and enjoy those movies. But they make no difference. I mean, the Batman, don't get me wrong, the Batman's an important movie. You know, they're setting up a brand new Earth in that movie. This is important, right? But ultimately, the Batman is an Earth 2 Batman and not an Earth 1 Batman. Think about that. So, we could have an Earth 2 main Batman, and Earth 1, we have a Batgirl. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but I'm still excited about the multiverse strategy. So, going back to the low box office of the Suicide Squad, it doesn't really matter. If you're a fan who's disappointed, don't be disappointed. It has no relevance. If you're a fan who thinks the Snyderverse is going to be restored because of this result, I'm sorry to tell you this, it makes no difference. You can shout as much as you want on the internet. Sometimes I'll quote tweet you and make fun of you, and sometimes I won't. It makes no difference. But whether you want the DCEU to succeed without Snyder or you don't want it to succeed without Snyder, It's all on Flashpoint. And I think you know that, and I know that. And I think it's incredibly important to understand that. But even if the Flash movie is successful and we create a brand new interconnected universe, which is my hopes and dreams are for, we have to look at the marketing. We have to steer away from Access Internet Media and the Stan. We will go and see the films, whatever. That's my main point from the lessons we must learn from Suicide Squad. We must steer away from promotion on the internet. The marketing must be physical, because that's where people are, in the physical world. People have misunderstood the internet. That's where the stans are, not the real fans. And I say that as a stan. You don't have to convince me to go and see a DC movie. I'm going to go and see anything with the DC label on it. But just finishing off, talking about how I believe that the box office will be more higher next year and fixed kind of and regulated next year after COVID, it brings me to movies scheduled to be released right now. And I think this is interesting because you're talking about No Time to Die, Spider-Man No Way Home, even Venom 2. I think people are going to look at the Suicide Squad box office and think, or studios are going to look at it and say, I think we need to delay till next year. Because as I say, I don't think the box office will go, we will go back to the old days eventually. And as I say, I think from summertime and beyond next year, we will have a normal box office again. And that's why I think a lot of these movies are going to be cancelled because of what's happened with Black Widow and the Suicide Squad. If that happens, I will do a video straight away, or I'll let you know via Twitter, and I'm at Movies TV Mag on Twitter. So that's my opinion about the lessons we must learn from the Suicide Squad. And I think they've already learnt these lessons. And as I've said, these past 3 DCEU movies are unimportant placeholders. If you enjoyed them, great. If you didn't, it doesn't make a difference. Everything is standing with the Flash movie. The failure or success will tell us if there is a DCEU future or not. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, tap the little bell so you don't miss this perfection, and I'll see you again in the next video. Until then, goodbye.